You know that feeling, right? You're completely stuck on a problem, you bang your head against the wall, and then, hours later, the perfect solution just pops into your head when you're doing something totally different. Well, it turns out that's not just a coincidence. There's actually a science to it. And in this explainer, we're going to dive into how letting your mind wander can be one of your most powerful tools for creativity.
I mean, we've all heard the stories, right? Newton and the apple, Archimedes in the bathtub. You're just walking your dog, taking a shower, or folding laundry, and bam! The answer you've been looking for just appears. For centuries, these moments of insight have been credited to some of the greatest minds in history. It's a process that scientists call creative incubation.
But this brings up a really fascinating question. Are these just random happy accidents? Or is there a predictable process going on behind the scenes? Could we actually set up the right conditions to spark these aha moments on purpose? Well, that's exactly what a group of researchers wanted to find out.
So, to try and solve this mystery, scientists designed a pretty clever experiment to get to the bottom of what's really happening during these creative breakthroughs.
Okay, so this whole idea is called creative incubation. And it's pretty simple. You work on a problem, you step away for a bit, and when you come back, you're better at solving it. But the real question has always been, what should you do during that break? Does it even matter? The experiment itself was very straightforward. First, people had to tackle a creativity problem. Then, they took a 12-minute break, that's the incubation period. And finally, they came back to the same problem to see if that break actually helped them.
The problem they used is a classic in psychology. It's called the unusual uses task. Basically, you're given a totally normal object, like a brick or a paperclip, and you have 2 minutes to come up with as many creative, out-of-the-box uses for it as you possibly can. The more unique your answers, the higher your creativity score.
Okay, now this is where things get really, really interesting. Because it turns out not all breaks are created equal. The researchers split everyone into 4 different groups to see exactly what kind of break gives you the biggest creative boost.
The first group got a mentally demanding task during their break, a memory game that was designed to take up all their focus so their minds couldn't drift. The second group got the total opposite, a super simple, kind of boring task that needed almost no focus, which made it really easy for their minds to wander all over the place.
Now, to make sure the results were solid, they had 2 more groups. Group 3 just got to rest quietly for 12 minutes. And the fourth group, they were the control group. They got no break at all. They just had to power through. This whole setup was designed to let the researchers pinpoint exactly which activity, if any, was the one that truly sparked creativity. So, after all these different kinds of breaks, what happened when they went back to the creativity test? Well, the results were anything but muddy. They were crystal clear. One group had a massive advantage over everyone else. When the researchers crunched all the numbers, they found that only one of these 4 conditions led to a big jump in creative performance. So, was it the intense focus, the complete rest, or something else entirely? Just look at this chart. The difference is pretty staggering. See that first bar? That's the group that did the simple, undemanding task, the one that let their minds wander. They showed a huge improvement. And the other groups, the ones that focused hard or rested or got no break, they showed pretty much no improvement at all. Yep, that's a 41% boost in creative performance. This isn't just a tiny little effect, it's a massive leap. And it all came from doing a simple task that let the mind drift. So the key here is that being lightly distracted was way more effective than deep focus or even just resting. But good scientists are thorough, right? They had to ask another question. Did this mind-wandering break just make people more creative in general, like a warm-up? Or was it specifically helping them solve the problem they had been working on before the break? In other words, was this true incubation? And this chart gives us the answer loud and clear. When they gave the participants brand new problems after the break, that 41% advantage completely disappeared. No group showed any improvement. This is the proof. The effect was super specific. Mind wandering wasn't just making them more creative overall, it was helping their brains unconsciously work on the exact problem they'd been stuck on. So this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. Why? What is actually happening in our brains when we let our minds wander that leads to these incredible breakthroughs? Now, you might think, oh, the people in the mind-wandering group were just thinking about the problem in the background. But when the researchers asked them, that wasn't the case at all. They reported thinking about the task just as little as the other groups.
What they did report, though, was way more mind-wandering, thinking about their weekend plans, what to eat for dinner, just about anything but the task.
So the creative magic isn't happening because you're secretly focusing harder. It's happening because mind wandering lets your brain switch into a totally different mode. It enters this loose, associative state where it can connect ideas in new and unexpected ways, far away from the rigid thinking of conscious effort. All right, so we've got the science down. Now let's talk about how we can actually put this incredible finding to work for us in our own lives. It's a simple 4-step process. First, really dive deep into the problem. Give it your full, focused attention. Second, and this is key, deliberately step away and do something simple and repetitive. Go for a walk, wash the dishes, fold some laundry. Third, just let your mind go wherever it wants. No pressure. And finally, come back to the problem later with a fresh set of eyes.
So, the next time you feel a little guilty because your mind is drifting off during some routine task, just remember this. That state of unfocus, the thing we so often think of as a flaw, might actually be your brain's creative engine, hard at work, laying the groundwork for your next big idea.